So what do we mean about by being? We say it as though it's a well-defined term established in the culture, and we all know what it's mean. Oh yeah, being. But do we really? Let's start by talking about the neighborhood of being rather than trying to define exactly what it is or the term, because it means a lot of different things. But mostly it's about, in terms of going inward, that kind of being, mostly it's about a willingness to be where you are, a willingness to experience what there's to experience. What ends up happening with people is people get in their own way because they get kind of stopped, and they get stopped by all kinds of, I'm going to call it voices, but that's kind of a metaphor because it might occur as thoughts or emotional experiences. So they get stopped by voices which tell them no. They get, oh my God, we had, I've interviewed so many people about the nature of the inner critic, the superego, the judge, that voice. And that's probably the single biggest obstacle to being, if you want to say it that way. It's like when you can, so what do you do about that? You could say, oh yes, I agree. And then you get on stage tomorrow and you freeze up again, whatever that stage is for you. You keep getting in your way. You keep stopping yourself. And that inner critic is a monster. The inner critic is horrible. It tortures people, and it's completely and utterly unnecessary. The practice, if you will, is just to not try to win a debate with your inner critic. We have to just we let ourselves be when that voice comes along and tries to stop us, right? It's like, how are you going to be about that? You can't just beat it in an argument and it says you're a piece of garbage, or you don't deserve this, or your art isn't good enough, or your problems aren't, being solved with enough brilliance, and it's so all that it contracts you and it stops any flow. It's probably the single biggest impediment to creative flow. And so many people had things to say about it. That is an awareness practice. The way through that is not to win a debate with your superego, not to say, to do affirmations to try to convince yourself that your superego is wrong. Any wrestling with your superego, any attempt to win an argument with your superego, to talk yourself out of it, all of that is validating it. So the being that comes into place is being aware, sensitively aware. What happens with meditation, for example, because we're talking about the superego, is you just become, over time, you become more sensitively attuned to what's going on. Now instead of just being the superego and being identified with superego, you're now aware of superego. There's a little space there. You're not pushing it away and saying that's not me, because that's trying to debate superego. You're just letting it be, being. You're letting it be, and you're not grabbing onto it. And grabbing onto it is taking it seriously in any form, feeling bad, agreeing with it, disagreeing with it. You're just being with it. So I would say that, when we look at what does being mean, one of the chief concepts is the awareness to be present with whatever experience is arising, as opposed to grabbing onto your thoughts and grabbing onto your emotional responses and trying to wrestle with them on their own level. You just kind of let it be and just relax your mind and stay present to whatever's happening. And that is a way to kind of start to wiggle through and find some freedom in spite of the fact that this will continue. The superego will continue for a while for most people. But it's not a life prison sentence.